First of all, it would be very remiss of me not to bring it up, but happy Yorkshire Day. Up and away, Chuck. um, so yeah, welcome to Yorkshire, the best part of the UK. So anyway, we've got Yorkshire Day out of the way. But one of the things, of course, I know someone will eventually bring this up to me. They're going to say, "Oh, what about the EU going after the UK for not implementing the full Brexit deal?" Well, guys, this isn't news. This is not news. The EU has been saying for quite some time the UK has not been implementing the Brexit deal that was in place. Now, I have to ask and stop you for a second and ask why that was not happening. Because remember, we've just changed government, who is now fundamentally changing its way and attitude it intends to interact with the EU. Remember our previous governments that we have had. How has their attitude for those previous couple of years been? Remember, it was revealed by EU diplomats that the Boris Johnson's government at the time was not even interested in having any talks or discussions with the EU until 2022. If you remember that little news article when that came out a couple of years ago. So fundamentally, we have a completely different government and how they are approaching the EU in this. And it would not surprise me if you've been keeping up with anything that's been going on in the UK recently. Like say you've been following Phil and such. Look at all the stuff that we're finding out about how bad a state the UK finances were in. It would not shock me. It would not shock me that we find out probably, within the next couple of weeks that, oh, shock horror, they weren't actually implementing these things on purpose because they were ideologically opposed to doing it. Would not shock me. But anyway, we are going to go get into this because this is something sort of worth talking about. And again, we are a channel that talks about Brexit. So again, we should, bring this up and sort of mention this. So let's go on into this today. But as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, you have a link to the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button where you can say thank you. And of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel that way. So let's crack on into today's story. Coming from the Financial Times with the title of Brussels now issues the UK with a list of demands if it wants a better relationship. So let's go on into this. So Brussels has now warned that the UK must now fully implement existing Brexit agreements on Northern Ireland and the rights of EU citizens living in Britain if it wants to build and improve relationships with the bloc. Again, this isn't news. We knew this was happening under the previous government. And now we have a new prime minister. We've got an entirely new government that has set out its stall of we want to repair our relationship with the European Union. So this is, I think, going to be something that we find out probably in a couple of, again, would not surprise me if in a couple of days we find out a whole ton of stuff of what the previous administration was up to during this time. But, we'll see what happens. I do fully believe that they are going to have to, fully implement a lot of this stuff. We are seeing, moves towards doing that with, for example, the product safety and meteorology bill. As we talked a couple of days ago, very boring sound bill, but would have huge implications for us following along and copying EU rules and regulations. So they are on it. They know which direction they want to go with. And as I've said before, I am very, very positive about how our relations are going to go. We just did the video yesterday about Germany wanting to build a positive, sort of UK sort of relationship and even build on what they called a big Brexit mega deal. And that wasn't from like a UK source, someone saying that. That was a German diplomat saying that. So again, I just want to stress this every single time we hear about like rebuilding relationships and improving this stuff. We hear a lot of very, very good things from Europeans. And it's like, whenever I bring this up, there's just this denial by a lot of people that they didn't say anything or that this is just lies or whatever. And I'm sure people will say it in this video as well. So, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying what they've said. And as I've said before, I'm very, very optimistic about this new relationship sort of being built. And we are seeing that sort of happen as well. So let's continue with this. So the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that his government does want to repair the UK's relationship with the EU through a new broad-based security pact, while also seeking now better trade terms. However, the European Commission has now issued a list of 8 demands seen by the Financial Times that the UK must now fulfill to demonstrate real UK government commitments to honouring the Brexit divorce deal with Brussels. So, okay, that's fine. I am okay with the European Commission doing that because, again, this was a previous governmental problem. We knew and we talked about this non-stop. But we've got a new government who wants to build these things. I see no reason why our government will not, fulfill those commitments. Especially if they want to have a better relationship with the EU. I do not see, our government being so ideologically opposed as sort of the previous government was. So it continues. This tough stance from the Commission does include requests to now fully implement elements of the existing Brexit agreements on Northern Ireland and the rights of EU citizens currently living in Britain, which EU diplomats described as a good test of faith in the new relationship. Again, no problem with that. That's perfectly fine. We sign international commitments. I am all about, guys, the UK, following international commitments. One of my biggest criticisms of our previous government, especially when it came to things about Rwanda, even about this. So, something, we need to do and sort of go along with. It's what we do. Sorry, I've got something in my knot in my back. It's absolutely killing me. But there we go. Anyway, Brussels now also has a list. So yes, Brussels also did list the requirement for full implementation of a UK High Court ruling, which said that EU citizens living in Britain should not have to make a separate application to win settled status after completing the required 5 years residence in the UK. Again, no problem with that either. The bloc's concerns were raised by the EU Commissioner Markus Solvak directly with the UK's new Relations Minister Nick Thomas Salmons on his first visit to Brussels following Labour's victory in the UK elections. After the meeting, both did emphasise their commitment to rebooting the relationship, but EU diplomats said that the Commission's determination to hold the UK's previous agreements so soon demonstrated that is underlying approach would not change for Labour. So again, I've got no problem with the EU sort of doing that, saying, hey, you signed something, you've got to sort of follow on with those agreements. It's only what we've been talking about for the past couple of years. But there you go. Anyway, Thomas Salmons did also say in a recent interview that he wanted a new structural dialogue with Brussels as part of the plan to now deepen ties on security, energy, and trade. But senior EU diplomats said that the Commission was now lukewarm on this idea. Again, I think if we do follow our commitments and we do sort of demonstrate that, we are following along with this stuff, I can see that changing. I can see that changing very, very easily. And especially when you are seeing, as we saw with Germany, those deepening ties, that push to have a deep relationship is not just coming from the UK, it is coming from other people in countries in the EU as well. So this is, I think, only sets up good stuff for further down the line. So, in a further signal of intent, the Commission also last week pressed ahead with a legal threat of action against the UK that it began back in May of 2020, in a move that now several EU diplomats said was excessive. And I think this is excessive as well. You've just had a new government come in. Why are you now going to press ahead where you could actually, speak and talk with this new government that's come in? With got a new prime minister, new people in. Why are you pressing ahead with that? I agree with what these diplomats have said that this was excessive. So the notice does relay onto the way that the UK implemented the EU freedom of movement rules during the Brexit transition period. The UK now just has 2 months to address the concerns or face referral to the European Court of Justice. Why the Commission actually felt this was necessary to do this now after more than 4 years is a complete mystery, said one EU diplomat from one of the EU's largest states. It is important that this reset is made to work. So there you have an EU diplomat from a large EU state saying, we don't know why they're doing this. You've had 4 years to press this case if you wanted. Why are you pressing it now where we are looking at this and this reset that we want to make work? Bear in mind, that is what that EU diplomat has said, saying that it is important that this reset is made to work, and yet you have the Commission pushing forward with something that they could have done 4 years ago, just deciding to do now. Again, it's really weird. The timing was very bad, said another second diplomat, adding that many Commission officials dealing with the UK had a bunker mentality after 8 years of dealing with Conservative governments now reluctant to keep their promises. We need new thinking. So bear in mind, I want to stress this. We've got a brand new government come in and said, we want to have better relationships with the EU, rebuild our relationship, have a complete reset. And you've got people, EU diplomats, saying, we want to see this reset work. We want to see this done. And now there was a piece, I think, from the Malta Times talking about this thing as well, that there is this Brexit PTSD that people in the EU Commission, it is said here, having a bunker mentality because of a previous Conservative government. Why are they not treating this like it's a new day and dawn as well? Especially when you have been seeing things like what Keir Starmer has said, David Lammy has said, numerous people in the UK have sort of said this about how they intend to approach this. And yet, it's not just us that has now radically changed the way how we're approaching this. The EU also needs to learn this. And if you're upset that I'm making that criticism against the EU, where we have had multiple EU diplomats, we did the video yesterday about Germany wanting that reset as well, then yeah, sorry, but the EU needs to come out of the bunker, because it's a new day, it's a new dawn. New thinking does really need to take place here. This is not just us that have changed how we are acting and sort of how we are relating here. The EU needs to change as well with that attitude too. Because we are seeing other EU countries, other EU diplomats, as mentioned here, multiple times we've talked about this on the channel as well, saying, yeah, we want to have this new relationship. We want to sort of see this work. Not just us saying that, it's other people in the EU as well. So, since taking office, Starmer has also pledged to repair the relationship with Europe, which has now been partially membered by the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak when he brokered the Westminster deal and the framework on Northern Ireland last year. This bespoke deal does include a host of special dispensations in order to remove the appearance of a trade border in the Irish Sea. However, the EU paper does contend that the UK is now still failing to properly implement the agreement. The paper does raise concerns about the failure of the UK authorities to accurately certify animal and plant products, requests that non-compliant consignments are rejected by vets at the border, and calls for a scheme to check pets to be urgently be deployed. Well, under the new regime, to provide the data on that context of the parcels is immediately impeded without delay. Again, what's the big problem with the Irish Sea border? Big part of this, why I think the previous Conservative administration did not do this, was as said as well, the appearance of a trade board in the Irish Sea. If you get a government doing this, implementing all this stuff, what do you get then? That implements the appearance of a border. Bear in mind, we have been seeing very recently Stormont potentially now getting back into action. Northern Ireland having its devolved government back in place. Fingers crossed that does continue. If this stuff starts to come in, starts to sort of cause problems, starts to sort of upset things in Stormont, that is a problem that we are going to have to try and solve. And bear in mind, Ireland also not going to be very happy if things start kicking off in Northern Ireland as well over the things like this as well. Once again, the easiest way to solve this problem is for the UK to join the customs union. Like, if we do that, problem solved literally overnight in many cases. So, potential, as we said, you have this big problem. One of the easiest ways to solve it is, join the customs union. It will be said, if this does become a problem, if we do get this sort of Labour does start sort of implementing more and more of this, and this starts to be seen as sort of a big sort of political issue, not only just in Northern Ireland, but sort of Ireland itself actually starts to sort of see this as a big political issue, then yes, you could see someone just come on and say, well, actually, guys, Theresa May had a point. Maybe we should just stay in the customs union. After all, remember, that's one of the positions that Leave held during the referendum. We would be fulfilling the will of the people, as the Brexiteers love to talk about, because remember, of course, the brain of Brexit himself, aka Daniel Hannan, infamously said, we are not talking about leaving the single market. Only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. So, well worth bringing up. So bring back to this here. So yes, EU nations that also have now large numbers of citizens living in the UK are also pushing for now better treatment, warning that the citizens are now being turned down for jobs, rental properties, as a result of uncertainties over their immigration status. And again, this is something the previous administration has been, I think, very, very ideologically opposed to, sort of giving EU nationals sort of better treatment. And again, I would hope now that we have a new administration, a new government, this is solved. So I do hope that is something that that we are, and the Labour does intend to take seriously, especially if they are constantly saying, as we have been seeing, to rebuild that. And if the EU, as they are saying, well, if you want to see that, then follow these, then okay. I do not see this being as big as an ideological problem as it was for the Conservative administration. And especially, also remember, worth bringing up, European Scrutiny Committee gone. So that ain't going to cause any kind of the problems that it's been causing for the past couple of years. Especially recently, where it tried to torpedo the deal for Gibraltar. So yeah, new day, as I keep on reminding people on this. So of course this needs to be fixed before we talk about cooperation in new areas. One diplomat said several diplomats and officials have spoken to the FT and have said that the EU's priorities are a mobility deal that allows young people to work and study in the UK, and getting the UK to rejoin the Erasmus student exchange program, and continued access to its fishing waters after 2026. Again, I think that can be done. I do think this can be done. I think under a new UK government, I think that we'll be seeing. We saw Keir Starmer said refused the thing from Spain, but honestly, I think this is, practicalities of it are gonna sort of have to come in. Um, at this point, you're gonna have to accept a deal from allow young people to move, and guess what? That benefits young people in the UK as well. So it's a win-win if we do this, and then again, allow access to fishing waters. Well, no one is ever going to sacrifice fishing waters for this. Even if Farage wants to make this like a big point, now he's in the sort of parliament again. Just bring up the fact that does he want to sort of sacrifice the entire UK economy for something that is worth like less than 0.1% of of the UK's GDP? You know, really sort of take these arguments to him and just throw it back in his face of what he's asking sort of the UK to do on this. But anyway, back to this. So the UK Cabinet Office said that it would not comment on leaks, but it said that the government was now working to reset the relationship with Europe via a new security pact and steps to now lower barriers with trade to the EU. We have had a very positive engagement with our early conversations and are very committed to implementing the full withdrawal agreement, including the Windsor Framework, in good faith and protecting UK international and protecting the UK internal market, spokesperson added. So, for those people saying, because I can already predict in the comments, oh, you should do that. Well, here we have a UK spokesperson saying we are committed to implementing the withdrawal agreement, including the Windsor Framework. As I said, you're going to see the UK government do that. The Commission said that the EU is now committed to a positive agenda with the UK based on full respect and faithful, timely implementation of the withdrawal agreement, including the Windsor Framework and the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which are the cornerstone for the UK relationship. So again, I can only see good things happening from this. But it's diplomacy. Of course, things like happen like this all the time in relationships with different countries. But again, I see this only as a good thing, especially when you've got a UK spokesperson going, yeah, actually, we are going to sort of implement the full framework. So yeah, again, I see really only sort of good things, future good things sort of coming from this. When you've got a government that has fully said, we want a reset, we want to sort of improve our relations. And then when you've got other countries in the EU saying, yes, we want that relationship, we want that reset relationship with the UK, we want to sort of engage more. How does this not lead to good and better things? So I'm sure people will tell me down below in the comments. But as well as always, like I say, please do remember to click the like and share button on your way out. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.